Arsenal are working on some transfer deals, and we're going to break through everything you need to know so far on what Arsenal's transfer plans are, starting with the outs, then going to the ins. They've basically got their first deal done in David Raya, but they are working on a lot of other deals, a left-sided defender, a midfielder, and although Sesko's fallen through, they may now be going for a winger instead of a striker, but if they sell well, they could get a striker as well. So let's talk about the outs, let's talk about the ends, let's talk about like the players that Arsenal are looking at, and actually why, as a Man United fan, all of Arsenal's targets are very good, and it annoys me that Arsenal seem to only look at good players and have got their recruitment right at the moment, because half these players on the Arsenal list I would like at United. So there's information coming out that Zinchenko and Tierney could leave as well, but we'll have to see what happens with that. I think Zinchenko will probably stay. Tierney will probably go, but I think Arsenal will listen to offers for Zinchenko. Eddie Nketiah certainly like to leave Arsenal. I think you could get somewhat decent money for him because he's a decent player, English, homegrown. And then obviously Thomas Partey to Saudi Arabia, something that could happen as well. So what are the expected outs? I think Thomas Partey, you get 25 to 30 million for him from Saudi maybe. He's a little bit injury prone, don't think you're going to get much more. Casemiro is going to go for 30 million. I think Thomas Partey will go for a little bit less than Casemiro. Nketiah, 25 million I think you can get from him. Homegrown, good player. Ramsdale, you get 25, 30 million for him. Tierney, I think you still could get decent money for him. Cedric Elneny, I think Arsenal just want to move on. Smith Rowe, Nelson, Tavares, Lokonga, decent money. I still think you could probably get 25 million for Smith Rowe because I think he could be in your plans next season if he stays, but I don't know if he wants to stay because I think he's a good enough player to be playing regularly. I think he'd be like, if Crystal Palace lost Eze, I think he'd be a really good signing for like a Crystal Palace where he's guaranteed game time. So I do think Arsenal could make maybe 100 to 150 million in sales. But the first deal they have done is essentially David Raya. Not the most exciting deal, but I think it needed to be done. I think Ramsdale's a good player, but David Raya just helps him build up. He is just that little bit better. So now Arsenal are looking at other targets. Now, I think Arsenal have been quite quiet on the transfer front compared to other windows. I think last windows you just knew they really wanted Declan Rice. You knew they wanted Kai Havertz from the get-go. You knew they wanted Timber. Whereas this window, they're a lot quieter. And I think it's also because the second Arsenal linked to a player, Chelsea decide they want them. Literally, as soon as Man United have been linked to a player this window, Chelsea are trying to buy them. Chelsea have always wanted Elise. We've been linked to Desiree Doué. Chelsea want them. Arsenal went to Desiree Doué, who rejected Chelsea, by the way. Chelsea want them. I feel like Chelsea are just waiting to see what do Arsenal want, what the Man United want. We'll take them. And I think Arsenal, like, we've got to be really quiet about who we're going for because Chelsea, like, all of a sudden, you know, someone Chelsea haven't been linked to. Someone out in the blue that Chelsea haven't been linked to. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Joao Neves. Arsenal really pushing for Joao Neves. Chelsea, even though they spent 100 million on two midfielders, could do that for Joao Neves. You don't know. I think it wouldn't make sense for Chelsea, but they're that club. Now, Arsenal have a striker, a left wing, a right wing, a DM. Sort of a striker, someone that can play left or right wing, ideally both, but potentially back up to Saka. Someone that can play DM, but also play box to box as well, because sometimes Rice plays as an 8, but I think they want someone that's more of an 8 than a 6, and a left-sided defender. I think Arsenal should be looking at someone that can play back up to Saka and play on the left, someone that can play as an 8, but also cover Declan Rice if needed, and someone that can play as a left-sided defender. So that is a left centre-back, so that's left-back hybrid, and we will talk about that at the end. Now, there is actually reports and talk going on that now they've missed out on Sesko, Arsenal may look towards sort of targeting wide forwards. And that was said by SR Collins. Nico Williams is one of them. Arsenal have been linked to Rennes Desiree Doué, very good player. We're going to talk about him in a second. And Xavi Simmons is a name that Arsenal are considering, and what a signing Xavi Simmons would be for Arsenal. I mean, he is an unbelievable player as well, but I'm not sure what's happening with that. So let's talk about Arsenal's 3 main wing targets and why all of them would be unbelievable signings in their own right. The youngest and the least experienced, the guy that's reportedly rejected Chelsea because he doesn't want to be another one of the wingers. They just, you know, pile up there. He got 10 goals and assists in 25 starts, 18, Ballon d'Or potential. He is silky, he's versatile, he's quick with his feet. He's got the technical ability of Phil Foden, dribble in and out of the ball, glide with the ball, low centre of gravity, quick 1-2s, intelligent pass, but he's got that explosiveness where he's quick, he can explode 1v1, he can go outside, he can go inside. He's one of those wingers that can go outside, inside, but operate in the half space. He's fast, so he can play as a winger, but he's intelligent enough, he's good enough on the ball that he can play as an attacker. So he's a direct player, he's got great vision, a good eye for a pass, sets up teammates, he holds off opponents so well, you know, uses his body well, completely press resistant. It's the full package. I think he could be a Ballon d'Or winner. You got Nico Williams, who I'm sure you guys will probably know a lot about. Age 21, can play left wing, right wing, 43 million release clause, 6 goals, 13 assists, start. in the La Liga this season. I think 24 goal contributions for club and country this season as well, which was pretty insane. And these were I think his stats have gone up now, actually. I think his stats have gone up. Yeah, he's got 25 goal contributions in all competitions this season. And then for country, I think he's got another 3 or 4 goal contributions as well. So, yeah, he's been playing unbelievable lately as well. He's one of those guys, 1v1, probably out of all these names, 1v1, he's just ridiculously good. I'm talking explosive ball carrier that's going to give you what Saka brings in that sense, but also able to play with Saka. But if Saka gets injured, can play on the right, and Martinelli can play on the left. He has played on the left a bit more in Nico Williams. In terms of someone that's going to create for your strikers, you've got it in Nico Williams. In terms of someone that's going to carry the ball and go 1v1 and make things happen, you've got Nico Williams. In terms of someone that can shoot, you've got Nico Williams, really good player. And then another name that I think Barcelona may be leading the race for, but that is Xavi Simmons. He loves to take on players. He's super skillful, and he's a big threat 1v1. He is a brilliant creator. I think his vision and technical ability to execute passes, his ability to move and create space for himself, create space for teammates, find the pockets of space, get in the half spaces, completely dictate play, also using the ball at his feet to manipulate defenders, creating space for himself to lay off a good pass, to lay off a good shot, to dribble. I think when I look at Xavi Simmons, I think IQ, I think of scanning, I think of, the intelligence that Mikel Arteta likes in his players. I think he's skillful, he's explosive, I think he is a baller, and I think they'll all be really good signings for Arsenal, which brings us into striker targets. Now, I have a feeling if they miss out on Sesko and Ostenheim's a little bit out of range, they may avoid striker targets to go more for what I would say is a winger, like a Desiree Doué, a Xavi Simmons kind of player. I don't know what they're going to do striker-wise. But yeah, it has been said they may prioritise a winger over Benjamin Sesko, but they have been looking at Xerxes. Now, Xerxes is a brilliant player. If you sign a winger that's a goal scorer, you want a Xerxes. With crazy output, you want a Xerxes. If you have wingers that are creators, you want a Sesko. That's the way Arsenal are going to go. Do they want goal-scoring wingers when you want a Xerxes, or do they want wingers that are creators, then you want a Sesko? That's the way I say it. But let's talk about the midfield, because the striker situation with Arsenal, now Sesko's not coming, it's getting a bit more complicated. But in midfield, there's some interesting things. So it was said that Arsenal are interested in Eze, along with other top Premier League clubs. Now, he does have a 60 million release clause. He's a brilliant player. I do think in that 8 role, he would be a brilliant signing for Arsenal, but I do think they need more of a passer than a carrier. I think they need someone that passes the ball well, more of a Xhaka kind of replacement. And Eze is more of a dribbler, but at the same time, he can play on the left. He can play in that 8 role. He'd be brilliant. But I do think they need backup for Saka on the right, because Saka was basically injured for after half of the games. He was absolutely knackered. I think Eze will be a good signing for Arsenal, but I do think because he's a sort of 8 carrier and left winger, they sort of need a left centre mid that's a passer and someone that can back up Saka on the right. So I don't know if it's worth paying the 60 million release clause plus 8 million in add-ons. There's then Youssouf Fofana, who is my first choice midfielder for Man United in the summer, just because of the fee being ridiculously brilliant. And then you've obviously got Subamende, who are now being ruled out of, and Joao Neves, who Arsenal are now reportedly moving for and could even be leading the race. So let's talk about Joao Neves. I think if Arsenal miss out on a striker in Sesko and they don't decide to move for a striker, they may go for Joao Neves for that left centre mid role. He can play as a 6, he can play as an 8. I think in a pivot with Declan Rice, he's brilliant. I think his ability to pass the ball is what Arsenal need. I think he's the closest you're going to get to De Jong. He's got elements of Kobbie Mainoo in him, which is what we've really liked at United. And his build-up play is brilliant. He controls the game from deep. He can initiate attacks. His ability to drop deep, receive the ball off the centre-backs, recycle it, keep possession, pass and move is brilliant. He's press-resistant. He's technically good. He's one of the best passers of the ball. He's a decent carrier, decent duel winner. I mean, he's all-round brilliant, especially considering his physicality and stuff. But I think when you're thinking of passing and intelligence and giving that in midfield, I think that's something Arsenal would need. We've also spoken about Eze, who's a brilliant dribbler, passer, like more creative passer, can put in crosses, very good in the left half space, has that magic flair. I do think Arsenal would create a lot more with an Eze, Odegaard, Declan Rice midfield 3 than with a Joao Neves, Declan Rice, Odegaard midfield 3, but I think a Joao Neves gives it a little bit more balance, but both good options. And then Youssouf Fofana, what a signing that would be as well. He's someone that can play as a 6, can play as an 8. I do think for Arsenal, they'd be better off with a Joao Neves and Fofana, because I do think he's a little bit more defensive. He's a more of a carrier. He's strong off the ball. He's technically good, but he is technically good and he is a good passer. And he would give Arsenal a stronger pivot and an even stronger rest defence. But hopefully he ends up in a Man United shirt. next season. Which brings us into the final position, and obviously one of them they've been massively linked to in Hato. The other two they haven't really been linked to so much, and there is a feeling that Arsenal may get Hato, or I think it's that he's going to have one more year at Ajax and Arsenal are going to go for him next year, or they're going to sign him now and loan him back out to Ajax. But you've got a left centre-back slash left-back there. You know, Timber can be right-back slash right centre-back cover for Saliba, and I was about to say Van Dijk for some reason. Ben White there, and you've obviously got Tomiyasu as well. And then the left back, that's the weakness. Zinchenko was a bit of a weakness. Kivior, you know, did well at points this season, but probably not the level. Tierney obviously not really wanted. You don't really have much cover for Gabriel. Hato could be covered for Gabriel and play left back. And Timber's also expected to play left back next season. That's what he did actually in pre-season. And I think Hato is incredibly technically secure. He's so press resistant. He's very simple. He's an Ajax player like Timber, so good on the ball, so good at playing out from the back. You remember Martinez wanted Lisandro Martinez a couple of years ago when he opted for United because Ten Hag could just move there. He kind of would do elements of what Mikel Arteta wanted Lisandro Martinez to do. He's a homegrown player. He can do what Ake does and Guardiola's started to do for Manchester City, and I think that's what Arteta wants. You've then got Calafiore, 22. The question is, will young Italian players leave Italy? Him going to the Premier League isn't massively on the cards, but he's a guy that, again, I think is a bit defensively better than Hato, but that could come through experience of the system he's playing in. But he's very quick. He's very good at covering ground. He's very good defensively. He's very versatile. And he reminds me a lot of Guardiola. He's very defensively solid, but he could do well in an attacking role. His ground coverage, his reading of the game, his intelligence, his line-breaking passes, his ability on the ball, like Hato, is still good as well. And then you've got Hincapie, who's been linked to Liverpool. He's there by Leverkusen. It's not really been linked to Arsenal, but he was my pick. Someone that's able to play left wing back, left mid, left centre back. 15 clean sheets, defensively good, but that is part of the Bayer Leverkusen system. But this is a guy that's unbelievable on the ball, can bring attacking threat at left back, but can fill in at left centre back if you need. If something happens with Gabriel, he can progress he can carry, he can get into the wide spaces. He's a good wide channel defender. I think he would really help Arsenal defensively on their left-hand side. That's just my pick because Hato's the only left-sided defender they've been incredibly linked to. They have been linked to the likes of Loku and Aït-Nouri, more left backs, but they're definitely ones to keep an eye on. So that is my video breaking down all of Arsenal's plans so far. We know that Thomas Partey, Nketiah, Smith Rowe could be some of the outs. We know that there's probably going to be a winger, a midfielder, a left-sided defender, and potentially a striker. I think Arsenal was just going to do three or four signings this summer. Only probably two more expensive ones, and I think what they do depends on outs. But I think they are staying quiet to fend Chelsea off. Arsenal fans, let me know your thoughts on these players that are reported in your transfer plans. Smash a like, smash a subscribe. See you next time. Bye.